Hey guys, Beck Fing here for the Young Farmers Business Program. I wanted to have a bit of a chat to you about keeping your workplace safe. If you do want to meet your responsibilities as an owner-operator of a farming or fishing enterprise, it's really important that we pay a bit of attention to keeping our workplace safe. So what does that actually mean to you? Let's get a handle on the lingo. So you may have heard of the terms hazard and risk. You might have even used them interchangeably. Does it matter? Not really. But let's have a think about what they mean. A hazard is something in your business that has the opportunity to cause injury or harm. The risk is the outcome. So let's have a think about what that means. A hazard may be an overhead power line. The associated risk is electrocution. I could go on and on. A piece of machinery or equipment, if I suggested that was a hazard, then we've got ourselves a rollover, a run over, or a crush injury. If we look at the silos behind me, the hazard might be a confined space. The risk might be suffocation or engulfment or entrapment. Are you with me? So once we've identified hazards, we need to have some systems in place to do that. So first things first, you've actually got to identify the hazards. How do you go about that? You've got to keep your eyes and ears open. So ensure everyone in their team knows what they're looking for. So if something changes in the physical or the actual environment, they know what to look for. It might be guards on machinery. It might even be a trip or a slip or a fall hazard. What are they looking for? Make sure that they know. Have the conversation with your team. It might be that you conduct an audit, so you have a baseline of the potential hazards that are in your business. Once you've identified a hazard, make sure you keep a bit of a record. It might create an action plan. With the hazards, the next thing we have to do is actually identify the risk. Is it something that's going to potentially cause significant injury or harm, or it's just something we have to tell people about? Issues that are going to potentially cause significant injury or harm, we really need to do something about. But what the hell do we do? Where do we start? But more importantly, where do we stop? At the end of the day, hazards that are going to cause injury or harm, we're going to have to deal with. And that's going to be after we do a risk assessment. We can have a look at a risk assessment, which is about determining how often it could happen, but also what's the likely outcome. And anything that has the potential to happen quite frequently and have a dire consequence, we really need to address. I hope you'll agree that you'd come on board with those ones. Then we have to have a think about what is it that we can actually do. This is where I'm going to bring in some really tricky lingo around the hierarchy of control. Have a look in the fact sheet on the Young Farmers Business Program webpage about how this works. It's possibly something you do every day. It's about starting at the top of the chain and working down. If you identify a hazard in your farm or on your boat, can it be eliminated? Can you completely get rid of it? If you can't, is there any chance you can substitute it for something that's a little bit more safer? If you can't substitute it for something that's safer, can you engineer it? We in primary production are really good at taking to things with either a grinder, a welder, or an oxy. It's a good opportunity to fix it and potentially make it safer. But keep in mind, taking to a piece of equipment or a tool with a grinder, a welder, or an oxy to potentially make it less safe isn't that smart. I'm talking here about removal of guards. I'm a full supporter of if we're welding something to make it safer, it might be a new handrail or a barrier, great job. But in terms of altering something to make it less safer, that's a dead set no-go zone. So if we can't engineer it, what can we do then? That's where we bring in some either administrative controls and using PPE, personal protective equipment. So have a think about what an administrative control could be. That's a pretty technical term, but what it means is, can we provide some training? Can we provide some instruction? We might be able to have a safe work procedure. If we can't take that activity to the point through isolation, engineering, or removal that it doesn't exist any longer, we actually need to tell people about it. So that's where we have an administrative control in place and or use some personal protective equipment. But that's the bottom of the chain. If you think about it, the further we go down that list, the more human interaction we require. We need to engage some common sense, and we actually need to get the job done right and get it done correctly. So once we have identified the hazard, we've had a look and assess the risks, and we've potentially put a control in place. Is that where we stop? No, not necessarily. It's important that we keep some records so we can demonstrate that we're really actively trying to keep our workplace safe on an ongoing basis. The other thing we want to do is actually review the control. Have a think about it. Did it actually improve the situation? And if not, start again. Go back to the top of that chain. Check out the fact sheet on the Young Farmers Business Program webpage and have a look at how the hierarchy of control and the risk assessment matrix fit together to help you keep your workplace safe. Keeping your workplace safe is one of the critical requirements under the Work Health and Safety Act. We do operate in a really dangerous environment, one of the most dangerous that exists. I'd like to make a joke at this point, but it really isn't a laughing matter. So at the end of the day, make sure we've got our eyes and ears open to identify hazards, we're assessing the risk and we're managing the risk to make that hazard less of an issue. This information is only a starting point. For more information, check out the Young Farmers Business Program website for some tips and tools and tricks and some templates to get you on your way. Because remember, safety is everyone's responsibility.